he and Secretary of War William Endicott will establish the Endicott era because Spain is in Cuba. They're setting up torpedo boats and basically trying to take back territory that is theirs, so we become in the Spanish-American War. The Endicott era will take all Civil War fortification and make it more modern. By modern, I mean modern for their time. So what they're going to do is establish $500,000 grants to forts such as Civil War on each coast fortification, make them more, such as these batteries. So Fort Gaines, you'll see batteries over there. In Fort Morgan, you'll have 5 placed here. Battery Dearborn will be your first one you see on the very first outer wall. That'll be a mortar battery. We'll have 4 6-inch mortars that will actually fire 3.5 miles with pinpoint accuracy. Battery Boyer, which will be your first constructed, will be 1898. Will be 6-inch disappearing rifles and 4 pits. So these basically disappearing rifles, I kind of wondered what they were myself. They basically mean they literally disappear. When they fire up over the wall, they can raise up, get ready to fire for the battery, fire back down. When they fire, it comes back down with the breech open. Disappearing from sight due to concrete batteries. This is actually the behemoth of the fort. This will be Battery Dupertel with 2 very large 12-inch disappearing rifles. To give you an example of what is in the pits up there, that'd be about a 2-ton counterweight that will carry the cannon up and needed to bring it back down if needed. The shot weighed 2,000 pounds itself, with 84 men operating 1 gun each on the left and right side. There's a shot trailway, see, it likes to go through here, out to the fort, to the bay, all the way to the powder magazine, and around the fort itself. They built a steam engine to carry the shot itself right here in the center of the fort. As they were doing that, they were steaming out. They basically got stuck right there at the sally point because the steam stack was stuck. So they're going to dismantle that train and basically do everything by hand at this point. Around 1918, you'll have a narrow gauge 60-centimeter train, small European model, that can actually steam through this sally point no problem. It will drag the shell up onto a conveyor system. You can shift it left, right, whichever shot you're going to, and place it into the magazines on each side. When needed, the men could get the conveyor system, drop it onto a cart, roll it out, roll it over, or they'll crank it back up, where 4 men will be waiting for the shot, roll it out onto another cart, 4 men will slam it into the back, 4 men will breach it up, 4 men will be down here in intel, 4 men will be up giving commands, and so on and so on. So you can imagine people are just running back and forth with shells left and right. When fired, the gun can render troops unconscious from their powerful compressive weights if you're behind the breech of the rifle. One captain told the soldier to move, he didn't. When it ricocheted, it sent him into the hospital for about 2 weeks. Other men actually had their pants ripped on base, so you can imagine some rough cannons. These will basically, now you look at Fort Morgan, it's more of an industrious fort. You're going to have 60 buildings constructed. You're going to have 40 to 50 officers' houses with barracks. You're going to have a gym, churches, schools, ice plants, bakeries, airports, baseball fields, tennis courts. Gosh, yeah. And then there was one more, oh yeah, bowling alley. So the men were pretty well set down here. That's going to change about 1906 with the hurricane that comes through. It'll destroy most of the fortifications. The only 4 original pieces you see here at the fort are the bakery, which is located in the center of the field, the admin building, which is administration today, and the second sergeant's house and first officer's house, which will be the historic grill. The grill makes me mad as a history major, but it's not my business. Hey. So, as it comes down to it, the fort will be used during World War I also to the training ground to send troops to go fight the offensive for England and France. They will actually see conflict and some will perish over there on the field. Fort McClellan is the other fort of Alabama that will seize these troops and use them to train. As it turns out, there is fear that Germany is going to be sending well, if you heard of the Zimmerman telegram, is a message to Mexico stating that if they would join the war, they will give back all the land that they lost during the Mexican-American War. That's a joke. You can't do that. But they're throwing them empty promises. So of course they think, it's kind of enticing, and they realize, oh, it's just a European conflict, why are we involved? So they deny. So we have our guns trained just in case there are German U-boats out in the bay, and it never comes down to it. So now we are facing World War II. The fort was closed in 1927 past the state property, where they'll actually re-amp it back up in 1939 due to Hitler invading Poland. They know it's going to get violent, and they're going to actually start back up. They're going to scrap every single piece of cannon engine. So all the cannons along here, all the big guns, all the small guns, all scrapped for the war effort itself. So what they're going to do now, I'm going to give you examples so you can't really see those bastions. These 2 bastions will be covered with sand, and they use 2 of the GPF 155s out front and load them up and make it a coastal artillery just for defensive purposes. They'll set them up and make sure that the men can take out any shot as possible. So this gun can fire about 6 to 8 rounds a minute, while those guns can fire about 20 rounds a minute. So you choose which one you'd rather shoot more. Now, there's 2 more batteries I forgot to mention. You'll have Thomas, which is a C-mine cable. It's really hard to explain it. It's literally a remote-controlled C-mine detonation area. They can set out through the tunnel over there. They'll set a line down to the bay with C-mines and minesweepers so they can plant it, and if needed, they can remotely detonate them when needed. Now, Shink, on the other hand, is a rapid-fire station using 15 1898 rapid-fire stations. So as it turns out, it will basically have Fort Morgan rendered useless after 1945. They'll pass it over to state property in 1965, and Alabama will buy it in 1975 for the Alabama Historical Commission. There is a pact with the military, however, if needed and be so, they can use the fort for defensive purposes, and that they will seize it and use it for that reason. That's why I look around and go, why? You have brick fortifications, and basically everything now is man-guided using satellites, and you have aircraft that can drop bombs, no problem. I say let them have it. So we like to make jokes. If you need us, about 8 rounds a minute, we got you. We'll suit up. All right, is there any questions about Fort Morgan's history I may have missed that you guys have questions about? If not, I can go ahead and do the firing demonstration. I'm sure that's what you're waiting for.
What does this run along? Why are the tracks here?
That's for the shot magazine, for the trains that steam through. They can drop the shot off and go left or right. So the shells are about 2,000 pounds. This magazine has 3 of the original pieces in there. Behind the iron gates there, we have actually 20 to 30 live ordinances, and we try to keep people away from there because that will be a very large explosion. And I got to get those cataloged, so wish me luck.
Oh no. Can we move back?
All right, so weaponry has come a very long way, as you can tell by today's standards. We can now fire guns no problem. As it turns out, this is an 1841 Mississippi rifle, very popular with the Confederacy in 61 and 62 because of the short stock and the short barrel. These will be rifled out to about 58 caliber, so you can imagine taking a 58 slug to your body, you're probably going to lose an arm or a leg. And that's what would just happen, because if it hit the bone, that bone is completely shattered, rendering your body useless. So they'll send you to the hospital, and they'll tell you to bite the bullet, figuratively and literally, and they're going to give you a lot of whiskey and start hacking away at that limb that was shattered. So, your most fatalities that happened during the war itself were diseases and the hospital, not the war itself. Shows you things have changed a lot. You now have cleanly antiseptics and, of course, anesthesia. Many people appreciate those the most. As it turns out, most of these rifles will be used till about 63. The reason the name of Mississippi rifle is because most of the regiments that Jefferson Davis during the Mexican-American War, who becomes a Confederate president, actually his men would use these rifles, and they were from Mississippi, so they favored the name of them and thus named them. Now, 3 innovations come around about this time of the 19th century. You're going to have the rifle, which will rifle out the barrel so it can grip the grooves and spin the bullet like a football, and then you're going to have the percussion lock. Instead of a flintlock, which in this condition, if I tried to strike it, it wouldn't work. It's so moist and humid. This will be smokeless dry powder that will go in, and when they drop down, it'll ignite, causing the powder to shoot out. The potassium cap, actually percussion cap, is a potassium chloride chemical. When ignited, much like a cap gun, it will send the spark, sending out the lead slug. Of course, in 1814, you'll have Claude Monet, who is a Frenchman and actually a military tactician, that will design the mini ball, or the conical-shaped bullet we use today with most rifles. This bullet will actually take a lot of lives as it's more accurate now. I took a military weapons class. When we were standing about here to that cistern there, we had a Brown Ness, which is a revolutionary smoothbore rifle. We had 1 shot each out of 1 out of 10 students. We shot it. 1 person hit it on the shoulder, and that was it. So you can imagine the accuracy of the ball going left, right, up, down. Who knows? That's why men back then would stand shoulder to shoulder with a volley. They'll send it high or low, depending on the officer and his sword, how he raise it high or low. So now you have men that are accurate. Men can take out men that are 1,000 yards that can shoot through that loophole, no problem. As it turns out, this will be very dangerous, as a lot of men will now lose their lives with Napoleon tactics. So they're going to change that after the Civil War because weapons are more accurate now. So you can imagine standing on a field with a weapon that can basically take you down just pointing at you. Not very good. All right, I'm going to step back on the field and present how you stay loaded by the 9 count. Now, when loading this gun,